Welcome to The Impossible, where we empower others to face the impossible, inspire them to be impossible, and motivate them to do the impossible. Guys, we have an unbelievable guest for you this morning, live from the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, and it is currently clocking in at 5:56 a.m. And I mention that because what you're going to learn today from the one and only Diamond Decker is that you can make opportunities work. And there's a clear differentiation between people who are willing and open to putting in the work and going out and making things happen and taking advantage of the opportunities life gives us, and the people and the positions we can be in where we make excuses. We allow things to happen to us and we find reasons that we can't do things. So we want to put out there an example of that clear differentiation for you guys, because Diamond is definitely putting in the work this weekend. When we were coordinating this podcast, I wasn't even sure, Diamond, if you were going to be able to do it or not, which is all good because, we just wanted to come up here and offer the platform, offer the space, and I knew you were incredibly busy. But it wasn't until you sent me your schedule that I knew how busy you were. Like, she's working full time at booths the whole weekend for the Arnold, and fitting in training, meals, everything that goes into being a bodybuilder around that. And then not only that, but you're going into work an overnight shift as a travel nurse this evening after the full weekend of the Arnold. So when people come up and tell me like, oh, it's Arnold weekend, I'm just too tired, I can't make these things happen, whatever it is. Or we just come up with those excuses in life if I can't do this, and this because of whatever this thing is going on. I think you're a perfect representation of, hey, when you're committed to something, you're passionate about something, and you want to pursue it at the level that you're called to pursue it, you can find ways to make it happen. So appreciate you being on here. Thank you for giving us your time, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. And I appreciate that, all the kind words. That speaks to me so much. I appreciate it more than you know.
Well, it's true. And I could tell like instantly, like when we were talking, I was like, oh, she gets it, because there's some people we talk to, and never to talk down on anybody, but I think so often we allow our minds to hold us back, Absolutely. To restrict us from what we can actually make happen. And we spend a lot of time on the show talking about potential, and we say specifically your potential is your responsibility. Specifically the potential in the areas in which we're most passionate and we're purpose driven in. And when we develop that frame of reference for it, it gives so much higher purpose and meaning to what it is we're pursuing in life. Because if we view the potential we're chasing as a responsibility, not only to ourselves, but the people who are following us and who we're impacting, it gives us a totally new approach on it. So I want to kind of take things back a little bit, because I don't think I've even gotten to talk to you in however many years. It's been a long time. What year did you end up graduating?
High school in 19.
19, okay. So you would have been right around, were you in Derek's class then?
I was 1 year below him.
1 year below, okay. I knew it was somewhere around there, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
So since 2019, you said you've only been bodybuilding the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And you've already become you're a pro level in NPC, correct?
I'm pro in OCB, and OCB. Then next goal is
NCP.
Trying to get NPC.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So how has this bodybuilding journey looked? What got you into the gym originally? What got you into discipline specifically of bodybuilding, and what drives you on this path?
Oh gosh. So that definitely, it's kind of a long story. So long story short, younger, throughout middle school, high school, everything, I played competitive softball. Travel teams, summer league, all the things, always. My dad was my coach. We did everything together, trained together. The goal was always to play in college. So come time, playing, talking to coaches. I had some schools that I was looking at, and I had one in particular, went to OU, oh yeah, wanted to play there. The coach that was there, her name was Jody Hermanic, amazing woman. Ended up leaving the school, going to coach for another school. I still had the passion, the dream to play for OU, but with a new coaching change your senior year, that's big. Difficult. So I was still trying to get in there, and so I was just working my butt off, training, getting ready that senior year, trying to talk to the coaches, everything. Turns out didn't quite happen that first year, so I was like, okay, I'll take the year. I started in my pre-nursing program, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come back next year. I'm going to try again next year. So spent the year. That year, turns out COVID actually hit my freshman year of college. But I started getting into the gym basically for softball, like training for softball. I was like, if I can get stronger, get a little bit better, come back next year, we'll play. COVID happens. Yeah. Nobody was doing anything at that point. Yeah. So took the summer, I was working, and nothing was open. So I got this little free Planet Fitness membership, and before work, I started going to Planet Fitness, and I just lift before I worked, go to work, go home, repeat next day. So that whole summer got into just basic training. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, I'm gonna lift some weights, get strong. I don't know, do something during COVID. So then we came back the next year. Again, didn't quite happen. Got that no again. So I was like, dang, okay, 2 years. I'm like, I had 2 years left. I can transfer. I could go try to play somewhere else. I could try it again. I'm already 2 years into like my nursing program. Like, what do I really want to do? I'm like, nah, I'm gonna train harder. I'm gonna come back next year. I might get it next year. So we did. So I kept working, kept training, lifting, all the things again. Came back again. Got that no one more time. I'm like, dang, okay, 3 years in. It's my junior year of college, right? So I'm like, I still want to play. I'm like, at this point, I haven't played. I miss playing. So I joined the club softball team that was there so I could get some playing in. Met some awesome people. Made some connections there. Again, same thing, different day, right? Still had that itch. I was like, nah, that was the goal. I wanted to play in college, okay? So that summer before my senior year, I actually didn't take completely off work, but I took pretty significantly off work that summer. I said, Dad, I was like, okay, you've been my coach forever, right? We're going to do this. I'm like, I don't care what it takes. We're going to do it, and I'm going to get that yes this year. So we took that whole summer from the day I stopped school until the day I went back to school, and we trained. I would lift in the morning. I'd go to the track. I'd do conditioning. I'd run over at the high school. I'd just run on the track, go over to the gym, go home and eat. And then the minute he'd get home from work, we'd go to the field. We'd go train. We'd hit, pitch, field, whatever the case may be. So I was doing like 2, almost 3 days, most days, that whole summer. Best summer ever. Yeah. Best summer ever. Most fun I've had. And literally all we did was work. And I think that summer really was where it kind of turned from, okay, I'm just lifting to, okay, I've got a goal here and I really enjoy this. So get back to school, right? 4 years in a row, all no's. I was like, dang. I'm like, I really thought I had it this year, you know? So I played club again and, you know, there was that disappointment, right? Because you're like, dang, I really worked really hard for this. Like, I was really hoping. It's 1 year, like 1 year, you know, didn't quite happen. But to be honest, I'm really glad it didn't happen because there's no way that I would have ended up doing what I'm doing now without it. So that's kind of how we got into the lifting aspect. So once I graduated, obviously I hadn't played like softball. I ended up getting a job up here in Columbus as a nurse. So I moved up here. To me, that was really big for me because I've always been really anxious and stuff, really stressed about moving away from home, right? So that was like a big move for me. Joined a gym, my home gym right now, Spark Society. Love them. And that's where I met all kinds of people. I started meeting some pro bodybuilders. Never really knew much about bodybuilding, so I was like, okay, what you're doing is pretty cool. I thought about competing in powerlifting there for a while. Had a couple back injuries, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to
because I don't think
that.
I don't think people realize how strong you are, too. Oh. You were throwing around, what was it, the 125s you had in the gym the other day?
Yeah, actually, for the first time, I picked up the 140s the other day.
And that's like 140 pounds in each
hand.
Yeah. I don't think people realize that. Yeah, and you were doing like, was it split squats you were doing with them?
I did the 120s for Bulgarians, and then I pulled out the 140s for some RDLs the other day.
That is crazy. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. No, I appreciate that.
So that whole story, like, I get so much from that. And I want to take it back a little bit to explain this to people. You had a dream of playing college softball.
Absolutely.
And you were as committed and more than anybody could possibly be to that dream. And you get 1 no, you get 2 no's, you get 3 no's, you get 4 no's. Not only that, but you have all sorts of unbelievably unforeseen circumstance in there. Your coach leaves. You have COVID in there, which was the biggest curveball any of us could ever have possibly, well, none of us could have even imagined it, you know. It just changed the fabric of everything for a few years. And yet you still stay committed and driven to this one mission. And most of us, the vast majority of us, would have given up after the first no. Everybody else would have given up after the second no. But there's a very select few out there who can continue and maintain that drive and that passion, that purpose for what they do. And you get to that summer right before your senior year where you talk about you basically take the summer off work so that you can train more or less full time and putting in 2 a days, 3 a days, and working that hard, that dedicated, and that committed to it. And yet you still look back and say that was like the best summer ever.
Oh yeah.
And I agree. I've had moments in my life similarly where when you were just like singularly purpose driven on one focus, one goal. That is like everything you're doing. Those are some of the very best times in life. It's hard to match that kind of feeling. And yet you work every day for months on end like that, and you still get that fourth no. What is it that keeps you driven and keeps you working to the point that it seems like the no's almost motivated you to work even harder? What keeps you driven in that pursuit? And beyond that, how do you keep those no's from, I mean, I'm sure they were crushing, but how do you keep them from totally derailing you and pushing you to just give up on what it is you're chasing?
Yeah. Oh, that's hard to answer because I feel like there's not necessarily one thing that keeps me going. We like to say in bodybuilding, if your why is strong, the how is easy. So it's all about your why, right? I don't necessarily think you have to have one. I think you can have multiple. Some of the things through all the no's that kind of kept me going, one was just the love of the sport. I just loved what I was doing. And the more I was doing it, the more I loved it. Looking back, some other aspects were too, my dad, again, was my coach. And that time we spent together was awesome. That was amazing. That was some of the best times that we had together, some of the best memories. We videoed, I forgot about that until right now. We videoed everything we were doing. I had so much training content. But looking back, like the funny videos, the bloopers of the two of us just enjoying, having fun, like that was another thing. Like I wanted to make my dad proud. He had worked just as hard as I did. Everybody that was supporting me, it wasn't just my win, it was their win, that kind of stuff. Now that I've gotten a little bit older too, one of those things, you want to be the inspiration for others that you wish you would have had. So growing up and stuff, I've always had more of a muscular build. I've had biceps, you know, genetics, love it. I've had biceps forever. Kind of got teased a little bit for it growing up, but I always wanted somebody to be like, oh, I look like them. Oh, like I can do that too, right? So if I can be that for somebody else, now looking back, I'm like, you keep going. Somebody's watching you. You don't know who's watching you. Somebody's watching you. So if I give up now, what's that telling them? What's that showing my little cousin who's 10 years old, right? I want to be the person that I say I'm going to be. What I say I'm going to do, I want to follow through on that. So it's more of an internal and external. So external being obviously the wins, right? Obviously being like everybody else supporting me, winning for them, all of us together. But also the internal of you love it. You want to do it. You want to be who you say you're going to be.
I love that you say that. That's been one of our core tenets and our messages of this platform is the meaning of life is creating the person you admire most and giving that to the world. You know, it sounds like that's exactly your mindset.
I love that.
And going back to that summer with your dad, when you told that story, because I have a daughter now myself, she's 2 years old. And when you told that story, I was like, that is like the ultimate dream for
Yeah.
any dad. Like, especially a dad who has a daughter, like getting to spend that kind of time. I would love to hear that story from your father's perspective as well, because I bet that is just one of his most cherished memories in life. And what's cool about it is, even though you got the no, I know you've said you look back on it, I'm sure he would as well, as one of the best summers of your life.
Absolutely.
And so it just is a perfectly clear demonstration that the outcome is, yes, a strong, powerful driving reason behind the why of what we do. But almost every single time when you look back and reflect, it was never the outcome. It was always the work. That's why our message is so much being impossible, not so much doing the impossible. Yes, those moments of victory are unbelievable, as I'm sure you know and we'll get into. But it's always going back and looking at the work, the process, what you struggled through, what you suffered through, what you overcame, what that teaches you about yourself. That is where so much of the magic comes through, the lessons, what you learn about your own ability to achieve. That's where all the greatest moments in life are. So taking that same process and transitioning that into bodybuilding. When was, you said it was that fourth year where you really, sounds like you really learned about your own capacity to work
Yeah.
for something.
Yeah.
And what does that transition look like going from softball to bodybuilding? Because I know they're
Yeah.
pretty different sports
They
overall.
are. Yeah. Funny, different, but again, I feel like such an old head, you know, like talking like this. But the older I get, the more you see, like, the work doesn't change though. It just transitions. And I've noticed that obviously with training, but in life too, like everything I'm doing in the gym in some capacity translates into everything else I'm doing as well. So the style of training that I was doing from like softball to bodybuilding now might be different, but the routine, the mindset, we're going to get it done regardless, all kind of transitioned very seamlessly. Especially, again, like you said, that summer really showed me like what I was capable of, how much progress I could make in a summer, 3 months, 4 months. And then just taking that mindset that I had that summer and just applying it elsewhere. Ooh, sorry. And then just applying it elsewhere. So it was actually pretty seamless. I knew nothing about bodybuilding going in. So all I knew was I love to lift. I love doing this stuff. I love to train. I like to lift heavy. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. Yeah. I know I can, I will. Yeah. So funny enough, it was, I don't want to say it was an easy transition. It's definitely a learning curve with the sport and everything, the knowledge that goes behind it, the process. But the actual training and basis of what you're doing, the basics, the consistency, the mindset, the dedication, all transitioned extremely seamlessly. Like they always say, the best life lessons you'll get from playing organized sports growing up. And I think there's a lot of truth to that because of how I've seen and all the lessons I've learned through softball, transition to bodybuilding. I think about that when I go to work. Yeah. All those things transition to my daily life. Like, you just see it everywhere. The more, and then again, maybe it's just me, because the more you look for something, the more you're going to see it. But I see it everywhere, and I see that transition really seamlessly into all aspects of life. Yeah.
Well, that's so true. We also talk about how we define our own reality based on how we choose to perceive the world.
Yeah.
And we see that in everyday life as well, because there's, and I'm sure you know people who constantly tear themselves down. They're stuck in this loop of, I can't do this, I can't do this. And maybe they're even taking it so far as to say, I can't do this because of this other thing that I can't control. You know, and they keep saying, always find reasons to put the responsibility on something else. And this is something we spent a lot of time talking about on the episode we did yesterday. We have to choose to accept as much responsibility as we can, even when it doesn't seem logical. Like, I've even gone so far as to start coming up with reasons why something is partially my fault, even if it's not really my fault at all. And it's intentional, because when we do that, we gain more power over the situation. If we have zero responsibility, then we can't influence the situation at all. If we can find some level of responsibility within it, we gain influence over it. And that in turn gives us more control, and it gives us more drive and motivation to be able to affect that change in whatever it is. But the further you go down this path, the more you're going to see these truths come forth. And it's because you're waking up with an active choice every day to perceive these truths. Yeah. So even today, you could approach today with the mindset of, oh, I've got to wake up and do this podcast really early, and then I've got to go in and work this booth all day long after my third day in a row, and I'm really tired and I'm really exhausted, and I've got to talk to all these people, and then I've got to go in and work this night shift. Like, poor me. Like, why does this happen to me? Like, you could have that perspective. Yeah. And there's people who wouldn't, you know, and that's nothing against them. It's just we all get trapped in these negative mindsets from time to time. But yet you wake up and you look at the opportunity before you. And I'm sure, especially with getting to work the booth and everything this weekend, that has to be something that like you've at least dreamed of in some context for a while. So you can take that same set of circumstances and flip it around and say, man, how blessed am I to be able to get all of these opportunities, to get to work this booth, to get to meet these people, to get to network with people who can, you know, I can learn from, who can drive me forward in what I'm pursuing, and then to still have the energy, the strength, the stamina to be able to go out and serve others in the healthcare field, which is one of the most challenging fields, especially for nursing. And you're an ICU nurse specifically, right? Yeah. Which I know from the patient perspective, you guys work harder than about anybody else in that entire hospital. It's unbelievable what you do. So thank you for your service there. Thank you. What do you think there's any like key critical shifts that have helped you have more of that perspective on the situations in life, that more of that positive, opportunistic, like I get to do this? What are some of the shifts that have helped you maintain and build that perspective as opposed to falling into that more negative mindset?
Yeah, I really do think, especially working ICU, you see it all. You see it all. You see the good, the bad, the ugly. And there's going to be times for all of it. There have been shifts that have really, I'll be the first to say, there have been shifts that have torn me down pretty good. And I think all of us have had those days, whether it's healthcare, whether it's anything. But some of the good ones, and I say good in a very broad sense because anybody in the ICU, that's their worst day. I'm seeing people at their absolute worst. So every day I go in there, my goal is, okay, if today is their worst day, what can I do? Even if I can't cure them, I can't fix their root problem, this very 12-hour shift. What can I do to make this day the second least, or the second worst day they've ever had instead of the worst? Can I make them laugh today? Can I make them smile today? Can I talk to their family and ease their mind at all about the situation? Like, what is one thing I can do to help make this person, this family, this situation even 1% better? I think that's a big key, bodybuilding, nursing, anything, is every day, what is something I can do today to make this situation, this day, myself 1% better? Even if it's just one. What can I do? And if I can do that for somebody else, then my shift is made. Obviously I'm going to take care of my patients. I'm going to do my full capacity to make sure that I do everything I can for their care. But if I can do one thing to make their day even better, that's a win of a shift. But I've definitely had patients I've taken care of that have made me, it's just changed my perspective on one, life, two, how I view my abilities and how blessed I am to be able to do what I do every day. Because there's a lot of people that do not have, whether it's physical, mental, emotional capability to be able to go and do what I'm able to do, and don't have the choice to do what I'm able to do every day. So yeah, if I got a busy day, I could really look at that and be like, oh my God, that's such a long day today, right? But I'm able to get up, drive myself over here, talk to some amazing people, drive myself to that booth, stand there, meet some amazing people, have great conversations, make connections, go to work, take care of more amazing people who need help, who need that support. There are people that are not physically able to do that because of whatever circumstance they're going through. So how am I going to sit here and complain when I'm not laid up in a hospital bed? I am able to live my life. I'm able to choose. I'm able to do anything. I could walk out those doors and do anything I want to do right now. I have no reason to complain. None.
That's
no
powerful.
Reason to complain.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, that's powerful, because that's what you're doing right there is you're telling yourself a story about the situation.
Absolutely.
And we've become really focused on literally the art of storytelling here recently, because we've realized that's the one key differentiation that we all do by default.
Mm-hmm.
We're all telling ourselves stories about who we are, what our lives are, the situations, the day-to-day life that we live. And it's really taking control of that narrative that becomes the key element into how you perceive the world. And by choosing to tell yourself that story and recognize the circumstances under that perspective, that's what gives you a shift to being able to have so much more of a positive driving outlook on life.
Yeah.
And I love hearing that, because it's absolutely true. You know, whatever situation we're in life, we're always blessed with opportunity. That doesn't mean we're going to be grateful that everything that ever happens to us. I mean, we've had people in this podcast that what they've been through is so horrific that you could never develop gratitude around that. What you can do is you can always go out and create opportunity from it in some capacity. You can always reconcile it in some manner. You can always create some level of good from it. And I think we almost have to get to a place where that becomes our driving, motivating force, or else we're just going to end in a negative spiral that only leads us to more of that bottomless despair that we can find ourselves in. So how do you, because you're balancing a lot right now, clearly, and bodybuilding is a very, very disciplined sport, which it sounds like you had already built that discipline and then you just kind of plugged bodybuilding into it, which is really cool to hear. And I have so much respect for bodybuilders because of that rigorous discipline you guys have to maintain. You know, powerlifting is fairly disciplined in training, but it's not disciplined in diet. Compared to you guys, it's not disciplined at all. It's like protein, calories. You know? Like those are the two requirements. So I've always had a lot of like high level respect for you guys for what you do and the craft and how you, there's almost this culture that most bodybuilders get really excited about the challenge of how they work in their diet. You know, even if it's not always easy, it's like making sure you hit every meal, everything's weight. It's almost this, it's almost like this ritualistic process that's like really cool to see. So what, as far as the sport of bodybuilding, I know you said you like obviously love lifting weights. What is it that you've really grown to develop deep passion for in that sport? What keeps you working as hard as you do for it? And what's the path look like to this point and kind of where you're headed in the future?
Yeah. With bodybuilding specifically, when I first started, I'm not really sure what my goal was, to be honest. Like I said, I kind of wanted to powerlift. I had been training to be a powerlifter for probably a year or two before I started bodybuilding, and then had some injuries. And after that, I wanted to do something where I could still be competitive and I could still give my all to something while still enjoying what I was doing. I always said I'd never be a bodybuilder. Here we are. Because of the food, actually. It was funny you were talking about the food. I always said it was because of the food. I'd never be a bodybuilder. I just wanted to eat. I just wanted to lift heavy, right?
The joys of life.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me, was at the start, the food, the learning, the diet, the consistency in that aspect. Because I'd go to the gym all day, every day. That wasn't a problem for me. It was dialing in all the little details that I didn't know, didn't realize at the time mattered. Your water, your sleep, your food, all the extra, your steps, all the check marks, all the things you got to check off for the day. And I think that was really big at the beginning, like getting into it is, I know some of us get almost overly hyperfixated on the things we have to do for the day, the check boxes, okay, I need to do these things. And sometimes we forget to live a little bit, right? But to be honest, that kind of structure has really been helpful just in everyday life, because it's not one of those things where you think, oh, am I going to go to the gym today? Oh, am I going to hit my macros for the day? It's, okay, I have this to do. How am I going to do it? And again, that's something that kind of translates anywhere. Instead of, oh, am I going to do this today? Not giving yourself the option. I have this goal. I'm going to do it. How am I going to do it? And that's been really big. Career, bodybuilding, life, anything. Don't give yourself the option. I don't give myself the option. I'm like, I'm going to do this. There is no doubt in my mind. This is what I'm going to do. How am I going to make it happen? And that mindset shift, when I first started bodybuilding, it took a little while to build that. Because again, it's very habit-based and kind of neuroscience in a way. The more you do something, the more you see the same result from being consistent, from doing the same things every day, the more it builds that little microdoses of dopamine. Oh, got that little win there. Yeah. Oh, saw that new vein there. Oh, new law on the scale. Like, you get those little, like I said, almost microdoses of dopamine. You're like, this is kind of cool. I can see some changes. Oh, I'm a little stronger. My food got upped. Might look a little fluffier in the mirror, but I just hit 3 plates on a hack squat. Like, the little wins, you start to appreciate all the little wins from the little details and from hitting your markers for the day. And I feel like in the sport, it's a very simple sport. And I feel like we overcomplicate everything in life. And it's kind of taught me, okay, bring it back down to the basics. Do the basics, do them well, do them consistently. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah, you know what I love about that, and something I don't think we've really discussed before. You have this very, very powerful mindset of asking the question how as opposed to the question if. And when I think about that, because the number one excuse that people give is, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that before. That's the number one excuse. And when I realize that perspective you have of how, not if, I think, how much time do we waste on an average day negotiating with ourselves and asking those if questions?
Yes.
I bet it's far more than any of us would realize. I bet it's hours a day.
Yeah.
We spend literally deciding if, not how. So when you remove that if from the equation, when you just decide and then you reinforce that decision, like you talked about, of constantly reinforcing those neurologic pathways of this is who I am, this is what I do, really developing that identity and becoming more deeply entrenched with that story you tell yourself about yourself. You have to buy back so much time simply just not deciding if you're going to do something, just having yourself already committed to knowing you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then the only question you have to figure out is how, which honestly I imagine is probably a much easier question to answer than if, especially when the if is already solved for. So that's really cool. Were there specific, you talk about those little micro wins, was there anything else along the way that really helped you make that perspective shift from the if to the how?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know if there was any like one instance of like any huge like life altering event. I can't think of anything like that. It's really just been a slow, gradual build, if that makes sense. We always talk about the progress is slow in bodybuilding and strength training and everything. You can't expect everything overnight. Mm-hmm. So every day you do it a little bit better, that 1% better every day. I feel like that's kind of how that's built for me as well, because we all have doubts, right? We all have anxieties, we all have stresses. And I think each day you choose to do these things, it just builds a little bit more and a little bit more on that mindset shift and that change from the if to the how. Because there have been plenty of days that I've been like, I'm not feeling it. My body hurts. My shoulder's bothering me, right? But it's one of those things. Another thing I think and tell myself all the time is, how many times have I just not done it before? How many times have I just not showed up and not done it? How many times have I regretted actually showing up? Never, right?
Yeah.
I always show up for myself. So I ask myself, I'm like, okay, when's the last time I just didn't go to the gym? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Yeah. I couldn't tell you the last time I've just decided, I don't want to go today, and didn't go. Probably years. And I think that right there, the fact that over those years, even when I didn't want to do it, I went every day. Every day I was supposed to go, right? We have rest days, but every day I was programmed to go, I'd go. You build it over time. You were talking about the story you tell yourself. Who am I if I don't keep the promises that I made to myself? Who am I to tell anybody else anything, really? If I can't keep the promises to myself, how is somebody going to trust me for the promises I keep to them? So I don't think there was one thing really that made that mindset shift from the if to the how. It more so over time has just built kind of organically through what I've been doing and what I love doing.
Yeah.
So.
And honestly, I love that, because that is how it works.
Yeah.
Very rarely in life do we have moments where one thing happens and it just totally shifts who you are, your approach to everything. Now, certainly, I do know people that have had those experiences, but those are very rare. And even when those experiences come up, there's still a whole backside of commitment and work that comes in that. And really what it's about in almost every case is making our worldview very small, focusing on winning each day. Yeah. How do I accomplish these tasks each day? And then sometimes it's even smaller than that. It's hours. How do I do this one thing that I have for the next 2 hours? Whatever it is. Winning those small tasks and building that up over time, like you talk about, it's a process. And Austin knows this very, very well as well. It's you have to slowly reinvent your entire identity of who you are by reinforcement of those daily actions. And over time, as you more strongly solidify that identity, it, in a weird way, like the work itself may not become easier, but it becomes easier to ask that how question because of who you are. And when you, on those days when you miss, even if it's like, we're all going to have days we don't want to do something.
Absolutely.
Like we all have plenty of those days, but it's on the days like you still show up all the time for it because of that's who you are.
Yeah.
And it's on those days that we do end up missing. It almost feels like a betrayal of self. And that is one of the most challenging things to possibly deal with. And it's because, again, we have that full responsibility over the situation. We can always choose to show up for the things we commit ourselves to. Now our vision for life, our priorities, our goals will change and shift. But like you've talked about, you went from softball, you had your nursing career, and then you now have bodybuilding. It's still showing up with the same mindset, the same discipline, the same work ethic, the same mentality. The avenues just shift, based on whatever you're doing that day. And when you can bring that level of identity into everything you're pursuing in life, that's that's really powerful. And also, I know like you've had a journey as well, working on hypertrophy goals right now. Have you seen a lot of these same things in your own journey as far as, because I know you've had to, from who you were, say 4 years ago to who you are now, you've had to make some pretty stark shifts in your mental approach, your physical approach to training, even like your spiritual and emotional approach to day-to-day life. How has that same kind of mindset reflected in your own journey?
It's been honestly an honor to, like you're saying, kind of challenge yourself in that, and within that new realm. I come from hanging out with the guys down at Monsters, very much like let's lift heavy, eat lots of food, and I'm so down for that. But then coming into the hypertrophy, coming into a program of which required such, I've been able to be in a world of discipline before, but having that program kind of keeping you not only in line, but also very cognizant of how the daily goes. I've learned so much, not only in terms of the sculpting of the physique itself, and I certainly have a long way to go, but it's been, that has been an incredible part of the journey, but also just like that, like you were saying about the implication of what you had learned from organized sports into then, put it into life. It's exactly the same thing that this program has done for me, taking it into life as well. I had good discipline coming into it, but I would say especially on the side of, because I just finished 12 weeks of a pretty heavy deficit for the fat loss phase, and that there was quite a bit of myself that I had to learn and I had to deal with and I had to talk to during that portion, and coming off of that. But what I learned from that was that sometimes a negotiation just doesn't even need to happen. That, like you said, I the choice was not. I didn't give myself a choice to say should I program? I could take this next step in this sort of journey to really finding that potential of physique, of discipline, of being consistent. But I sat there and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to give myself that choice. I'm just going to go and do it. And we will at the end of this 6 months, we'll see how things went.
Yeah.
And so that was taking the choice away, taking the negotiation away. Not only with that, but like I said, during the journey itself, it's not only been rewarding, it's mostly just been an honor to be able to experience that and to see what Austin is going to come out at the end of that. So
So we've covered a lot of ground today, and really you've laid out a really powerful message. This idea of how, not if, and staying focused on those daily wins, staying focused on that daily discipline, using the struggle, the challenge, the victories, everything wrapped up in it to build that identity for yourself. And as we, I guess, kind of start to wrap up today, what's next on the bodybuilding stage for Diamond Decker?
Yeah. So I'll actually share a little story from my past competition season to kind of lead into that. This past year, I competed at the NPC Ben Weeders, which is a national natural show, to try to go for my IFBB Pro card. And unfortunately, I missed. I failed, in my opinion. That's how I felt at the time. I was told on the scorecard I was about a point off. It happens. After the show, I won't lie, I was crazy disappointed. I was really upset with myself. I felt like I had failed not only me, but my coach, everybody who was looking up to me, watching me. I had so much support during prep. So I was feeling down. I was feeling rough after that. And it just so happened I'm taking some pictures, I'm about 3 seconds away from being in tears because it's just a lot, And this young girl comes up to me. She's probably high school age. And she was like, do you mind if I ask you some questions? I'm a high school student doing this project on bodybuilding, and I just loved your physique, and I would love to look like you someday. I kind of want to compete now too. And I was like, of course, and we talked, chatted, whatever. I gave her my phone number, like, if you ever need anything, let me know. And after that, it was as if all of those feelings of, the feelings of failure just kind of melted away. I was like, I may not have achieved that pro card, that tunnel vision goal that I had set out for this season, but I had a different kind of win that was almost even more powerful, in my opinion. I felt like I became someone that I would have looked up to at that girl's age. That if I could be that for other women and other people, then I just won. It didn't matter what the scorecard said. It didn't matter what my placing was, like we had talked about. She didn't know what my placing was. She didn't know how close I was or not. She just saw somebody that she looked up to, and I could be that one day. If I could show another young girl what's possible for her, and to expand her mind and the possibilities of what she can achieve, then I've won. And that's kind of, I share all that because my goals for bodybuilding, obviously I would love to compete and like step on stage, health permitting by the end of the year and go for that pro card again. But my overarching goals for the immediate and long-term future in the sport and in athletics as well is just to be that, I guess, inspiration for someone else, especially, like I said, young women like myself who were looking for someone to look up to and wanted to see someone else doing what I wanted to do, right? They say, if you can see it, you can achieve it, right? So if I can show what they can achieve, then there's no limit. I can do that too. I can do that and more.
Absolutely. And that's a really powerful thing to tie your identity into, because we talked a little bit about how we can't, it's a dangerous road to walk, tying our identity fully to these things that we may not have absolute control over. But that sort of identity you lay out there, you have absolute control over that. No matter what happens in life, you can always do that kind of work. Yeah. Even if you eventually get to a point in your life where you're like, you know what, I don't want to do bodybuilding anymore. Even if that day comes, you can still do that kind of work of building up, empowering women, inspiring them, helping them to see their own potential, see their own strength, their own power. That's something you can always play. It's what Alex Hormozi would call an infinite game. It's a game you could play for the rest of your life under any circumstance and continue to win. Yeah. And those are the best pursuits in life. I think of another quote from a guy named Simon Sinek that he says, people never remember what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel. And I think that's so powerful. And when I think about it in the context of my own life as well, like, we always remember how people make us feel. That little girl will always remember how you made her feel that day. And contrarily, like, if you had just brushed her off and said, "No, I'm not feeling great after that. I don't want to do this right now." You could have said that, and she would have always remembered that. But because you took the time, you invested in her, you built her up and helped her see a higher level of potential in her own self. That is something that I guarantee will give her drive, whether she pursues bodybuilding or not. Yeah. It will give her drive. It'll give her discipline. It'll give her motivation for the rest of her life in some capacity. And knowing that we have the potential to influence others in that capacity is one of the most unbelievably powerful drivers we could ever tap into. And it's just been such an honor to have you on today, to have you here despite a very, very busy schedule this weekend. We're incredibly appreciative you took the time out to be here and do this with us, because this is going to impact a lot of people in that same capacity. So keep doing the work you're doing. It's awesome to see, awesome to watch, and awesome to learn from you. And I'm excited for when you step back on stage to get that pro card, because here's the thing, every failure writes a better story. Like you could fail 10 more times, and that time that you get it, which I have no doubts it's coming. People who are as driven and like disciplined as you are, and who have such a strong identity structure as you do, it's you just can't help but to win at some point, you know. And there's going to be failures along the way, but there's people in life who are just so driven they can't possibly fail, and you're one of those people. So it's an honor to have you here, honor to share your story. Anything else you want to share before we hop off here?
I just want to thank you guys. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. One, for having me, and two, for what you guys do. Again, coming across your page again after so many years, I've always looked up to you. I don't know if you knew that. I'll have to pull it up, but I have a picture of the two of us. I was in like middle school.
I think I remember that. Actually.
Yeah, I have a picture of the two of us.
Was it during cancer?
Huh?
Was it when I had cancer?
It was, yeah. So you've actually like inspired me since I was young. So little full circle moment.
Well,
but
I appreciate that.
But I just want to thank you guys for what you do, because your platform is amazing, and the content that you guys spread and the positivity and the mindset is just next level. And I respect it and appreciate it so much. And I know a whole bunch of other people definitely do and will. So. Well,
thank you. We really appreciate that. That means a lot. Austin, brother, you got anything else for today?
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you know the rule. We never stop this podcast in the middle of these powerful discussions to run ads or anything like that. The only thing we ever ask is if you get something out of today's episode, please share it with as many people as you know whom you believe it would also impact, because there was so many good lessons, so much power to this discussion. There is many things, honestly, to learn here for everybody. So scroll down a little bit, click the share button, copy a link over to a text message, email, social media post, however you want to share it, and share it with everyone you know, because that, at the end of the day, is how we do everything we are striving for at Impossible Performance. And if you want to join us off camera and continue these discussions, dive deeper into these topics, join our online community. Scroll down in the description there. It's the top link in the description. You can jump in there today and get in now. Diamond actually just joined last week. I was so pumped when you just joined in there. It's a brand new platform called School, but it is the future of social media. It is community-based social media for authentic human connection, and it's been such a cool platform to dive into. So you can even learn from Diamond directly herself on that platform, but just jump down, click on that link, and join it today. We'd love to have you there and continue and deepen these discussions. But outside of that, guys, appreciate your support, appreciate you following, appreciate everything you do for us, and appreciate you being a part of this community and constantly driving for the pursuit of your highest potential. Because at Impossible Performance, we are striving to build a global culture of strength, fostering a spirit of growth in constant pursuit of the impossible. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Diamond, for being here.
Thank you, guys.
And as always, be impossible.